Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra, because we're on a Monday. We're on Bank Holiday Monday. Now, we weren't going to do a live show tonight, but it's been a long day, and frankly, I could do with a beer and a bump. So I thought we will do Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra on a Monday. So, what are we reading? We're still reading the brilliant Scottish Ghosts. Absolutely fabulous book. Must look up to see if they've got any more from this range. What are we drinking tonight? We are drinking, courtesy of friend Faye, the Copperberg Premium Cider Winter Punch. Apple cider with a taste of blackberry and blackcurrant, contains sulfates to preserve freshness, suitable for vegans, apparently. Energy per 100 mils, 216 kilocalories, blah, 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 blah. So there we are. The Copperberg Winter Punch, a little bit out of season, but never mind. What are you washing it down with? I forgot to get some more of the, I forgot what the blessed stuff's called now. The Western Gold Honey. So we are tucking into Reg's R. Bracken. Thank you, Reg. I was in Lidl twice today. Why didn't I get some Western Gold Honey? Answers on a postcard. Right. Shall we crack on mit the ghost stories? Because the sooner I can get this done, the sooner I can get downstairs, have some supper, and then hopefully try and get some sleep in this horribly sticky weather at the moment. Dramatic appearances. People in the theatrical professions have a reputation for being superstitious. Read that again. People in the theatrical professions have a reputation for being superstitious. Many actors and actresses will freely admit to owning one or more lucky charms and following their own personal little rituals, which they believe will bring them luck during their performances. In addition to personal lucky charms and rituals, there are also theatrical superstitions that are quite well known to the public in general. For example, one should never wish performers good luck before they go on stage, for this is believed to have the opposite of the desired effect. Instead, a hearty break a leg is thought to be a safer means of wishing a performer success. Shakespeare's Macbeth has its own superstitious associations. Members of the acting profession believe that it is unlucky to call the play by name. It is referred to instead as the Scottish play. In such circles where people come together who are both collectively and individually superstitious and who are required by their profession to be imaginative and intuitive, it will hardly come as a surprise to those of a more sceptical nature that many theatres throughout Great Britain and in Scotland in particular are said to be haunted. Nonetheless, witnesses to the presence of some of these ghosts do not necessarily belong to the theatrical professions, and it is not easy to find alternative explanations for all the ghosts that are said to exist. Oh, my eyes are a bit sticky tonight. I'm sure it's this blessed weather. Let's have some Copperberg Winter Punch. Friend Faye absolutely swears by this, and Friend Faye absolutely swears. But we haven't even started the stories yet, and already we have a dead soldier and Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
It's cider with blackberries and blackcurrants. Smells nice. Very quaffable. Doesn't taste like cider at all. What is its volume of alcohol? It is 3.4%. It's not even trying. The Bayer Theatre, St Andrews. The Bayer Theatre, converted in the 1930s from a dairy, is a small but thriving establishment in the historic university town of St Andrews in Fife. Throughout the year, a succession of performances are put on for audiences of all ages. The scope of productions ranges from serious works to pantomime, and most are well attended. In spite of the difficulties of the time, the theatre was kept going right through the dark years of the Second World War, thanks to the unstinting efforts of its director, Charles Manford. It will appear that Charles Manford's dedication to the Bayer has stayed with him after death. He seems to be reluctant to leave his beloved theatre entirely. He seems to be reluctant to leave his beloved theatre in the hands of others. For although he died in 1955, his ghost still haunts backstage at the Bayer. It makes its presence felt with a distinct chill in the air. The ghost does no harm, perhaps because the theatre still flourishes. I think we'll deserve a thunderclap. Excuse me, everybody. His Majesty's Theatre, Aberdeen. His Majesty's Theatre was built in 1904, which is almost 7, and has been the venue for a great variety of performances since then. In the early 1940s, the theatre saw tragedy when one of the stagehands working there, a man called Jake, was killed in an accident by a stage hoist. Jake still haunts the theatre, and a variety of strange happenings, from disappearing objects to shadowy appearances and strange noises, are associated with his ghost. I see, with my editing hat on, a variety of strange happenings. We've got strange twice in the same sentence there. So a variety of strange happenings, from disappearing objects to shadowy appearances and strange noises, odd noises, unusual noises, are associated with his ghost. Anyway, what did you do on Sunday night? I tuned in to watch Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra on a Sunday, and instead I was treated to a lecture on grammatical construction of a sentence. So that's because I's a writer, ain't I? Cheers, me bears. Oh, that's lovely. Theatre Royal, Edinburgh. The Theatre Royal was built in 1768 on the site that is now occupied by the General Post Office at the corner of Waterloo Place and the North Bridge in Edinburgh. The theatre was in operation for less than 100 years. It closed down in 1859, which is 7 minutes, and yet even in that relatively short period, it acquired a reputation for being haunted. The stage manager of the theatre lived with his family in a flat at the top of the building above the auditorium, and they were the first to notice strange goings-on. At night, when the theatre was empty and everything was locked up, the sounds of voices, footsteps, and general activity could be heard from inside. It appeared that ghostly players were returning to the theatre. Do apologise, the beer yawns. It appeared that ghostly players were returning to the theatre for spooky nocturnal performances of their own. The ghosts of the Theatre Royal became quite famous around Edinburgh, but when the theatre was pulled down in 1859 to make way for the new post office building, the ghosts seemed to vanish, perhaps to make an entrance elsewhere. I definitely deserve that. Best way of describing that is, it's almost like a slightly alcoholic Ribena Edinburgh, 3 more ghostly theatres. The Royal Lyceum, still a popular venue for theatregoers in the capital. The Playhouse, which is now used as a venue for rock concerts and musicals, and the Edinburgh Festival Theatre, rescued from existence as a bingo hall and restored to theatrical glory, are all said to be haunted. The Playhouse. The ghost in the Playhouse is known affectionately as Albert, and although nobody is certain as to who he might have been, his presence manifests itself in a variety of ways. He is a mischievous ghost who plays tricks, apparently. People have felt his presence in certain cold spots in the theatre. He has been seen on occasion as a figure in a grey coat. The Royal Lyceum. The Royal Lyceum is believed to be haunted by a woman. She has been seen by performers on stage who have spotted her figure high up in a gallery of the theatre, now used only for lighting. Edinburgh Festival Theatre. Staff at the Festival Theatre claim to have seen the tall, dark, shadowy figure of a man on a number of occasions. There is speculation that this might be the ghost of the Great Lafayette, a magician who was killed in a fire at the theatre in the days when it was known as the Empire. And that's it. Three more ghostly theatres. Oh, and we're coming towards the end of the chapter on theatres. I was enjoying that. What are we up to? 30 minutes. Not quite bump time yet, so Slange. Oh, lovely. The Theatre Royal, Glasgow. The Theatre Royal in Glasgow is home nowadays to Scottish opera, but apparently it has another resident performer who puts in an appearance from time to time. She is known as Nora, reputedly a woman who worked as a cleaner in the theatre some years ago. Some say that she desperately wanted to be an actress and sought employment in the theatre, hoping that she would then get the chance to act. She eventually secured herself an audition with a director at the theatre, but was virtually laughed off the stage. Heartbroken, she committed suicide. Oh. What are we up to? 14, almost come up to the 15-minute mark. In the magnificent Rush beer glass, thank you viewers Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Slange me bar. Actually, we are into the quarter-hour mark, so mind how you go. Numerous and varied are the ghosts that are said to haunt Scotland's thoroughfares. It might be a city street or a country road, a dark corner in a dingy district, or a sunlit path through a panoramic glen. Fields, mountains, and waterways all have their spectral presences. There are ghosts on land and sea, in places of solitude, and by bustling visitor centres. Ghosts appear whenever people have been and wherever they might go. Try again. Ghosts appear wherever people have been and wherever they might go. Many ghosts haunt particular buildings or ruins, but others frequent areas that are not bound by walls. Mention has been made of some of these ghosts already. Major Weir, who strides out and rides in his carriage in the area of the West Bow in Edinburgh, Angus Roy with his damaged legs scraping behind him along Victoria Terrace, the soldiers marching through the pass of Killiecrankie. Oh, I wish there should be an and there. Let's try it again. Major Weir, who strides out and rides in his carriage in the area of the West Bow in Edinburgh. Angus Roy, with his damaged leg scraping behind him along Victoria Terrace. The soldiers marching through the pass of Killiecrankie. Some of the ghosts are nameless, while the identities of others are well known. But the tales of these ghosts just might make the reader stop and think wherever they go, who was here before me? But the tales of these ghosts just might make the reader stop and think wherever they go, who was here before me? What happened? Who might be watching? Oh my goodness me, and that one is, these are all long stories. Ugh. Slange. Oh, lovely. Cheers, me beers. Annan. The bizarre occurrences on the A75 near Annan were comparatively recent compared to many other tales of ghostly apparitions around Scotland. They took place in the 1960s. The fact that two young men were simultaneous witnesses to all that happened gives credence to the tale. Had there been only one of them to tell what happened, it is unlikely that he would have been believed. The incident was very much a one-off, and just exactly what caused it remains a mystery. Is it possible that two people can share the same hallucination? If it was not hallucination but a kind of haunting, why were these two men the only ones to be subjected to such a frightening experience? Or have others experienced something similar but been too frightened to tell? Is it likely to happen again? The two young men were travelling back to Annan late at night, and the road was very quiet. They were some 10 or so miles from Annan when the driver noticed the figure of a woman gesticulating wildly in the beam of the car's headlights. He was just about to swerve to avoid knocking her down when she vanished. The passenger had seen the woman too. Hardly had the old woman disappeared than the two incredulous passengers were stunned by the sight of a crowd of murky figures apparently rushing towards the car. The figures were mostly those of animals: dogs, cats, farmyard creatures, animals of all sorts, both identifiable and unfamiliar. Amongst the animals was the figure of an old man. His long white hair streamed out behind him as he ran, and his mouth was wide open in a soundless scream. The driver swerved this way and that, trying to avoid the creatures in this strange parade. But before long, he realized that whichever way he turned, none of the animals was touching the car. Were they figments of his imagination? One glance at his terrified passenger told him that they were not. The next moment, the air in the car turned deathly cold. The driver could feel some unseen force taking the steering wheel, trying to wrestle it from his grip and make him lose control of the car. In spite of the chilling atmosphere, the two men felt as if they were suffocating. One of them opened a window. Searingly cold air rushed into the car, accompanied by eerie, menacing sounds of cackling and screeching. The driver put his foot on the brakes, unable to continue any longer. Invisible, sinister presences outside then began to rock the car violently back and forth. The men were thrown from side to side, backwards and forwards. Finally, unable to bear it any longer, one of them threw open the door, ready to flee. As he got to his feet outside the car, all went quiet. There was nothing to see. and all he could hear was the sound of the wind rustling gently in the trees and the rasping pant of his own panic-stricken breathing. The experience had been so awful and so exhausting that the two young men stood outside and took some time to gather their wits before they got back into the car. The driver started the engine again. Both men were, by this time, desperate to get home. No sooner had they started the car than the ghostly animals reappeared, swarming round the vehicle, emitting unearthly noises. The driver grimly held onto the wheel and steered a path straight through them. The driver grimly held onto the wheel and steered a straight path through them. They were nearer to home now. Surely it would all end soon. It was reassuring to notice that at last there was another vehicle some distance in front of them on the road. They could see its lights glowing in the darkness, and from its size and shape, it looked like a furniture van. Some yards farther along the road, the driver realized that the van was not moving. He willed his foot to press on the brake, but in spite of himself, he pressed down hard on the accelerator instead. They were going to crash. Unable to prevent the inevitable happening, both men waited wide-eyed for the moment of impact. A fraction of a second before the car hit the van, however, the van disappeared. The driver found that once again he could control his feet on the pedals. The old man, the ghostly menagerie, and the van had all vanished. The road was quiet and empty, and at last everything had returned to normal. Completely drained by the experience, the two men made for home. That's definitely a thunderclap, that. Although I've got to say, the idea that the passenger was terrified, well, if the driver is veering all over the place, then yeah, I think we can't really blame the passenger for being terrified. Just trying to find that section again. No, I can't find it. It was there, but anyway. We are absolutely baking hot in here tonight. I know you're probably thinking you're wearing a bloody jumper. No wonder you're hot. Very kind of you. But yeah, it's weird. It's like a week ago, I'd be up here with the fire on and I'd be freezing cold. Now I'm absolutely sweltering. So talking of fire, let's tilt the camera down a bit. I'm ripping my jeans. Wow. Very Frank Dunnery. Oh, that's a bump, slange. And we've had some fan mail. Let's read the fan mail. Right. Let's crack on. Mit der Ghost Stories. What are we up to? 25 minutes and 46 seconds. Ben McDuib. Doobie? McDuib. Ben McDuib. That's close enough. Ben McDuib in the Cairngorms is a magnificent but lonely place to experience a ghost. Upper slopes of the mountains have snow on them for several months of the year and make an awesome sight. But even in summer, the landscape possesses a certain power. The mountain is one of Scotland's Munros hills over 3,000 feet high and is popular with walkers and climbers. But in spite of that, it is still very isolated. It's quite possible, I think it should be it's quite possible, It's quite possible for the solitary walker to spend several hours on the mountain without coming into contact with another human being. On occasion, lone walkers have found that they have company after all. Not human company, but that of Anthea Leith Moore, the big grey man of Ben Macdouib. Sights and sounds of the big grey man have been reported for more than a century now by several people. The ghost is not only seen on the mountains itself, but also in the surrounding area of the Cairngorms, in the Lerrig Gruru, and in Glenderry, for example. The Lerrig Grew and in Glenderry, for example. Several common elements link the stories that have been told by various witnesses. One of the first reported experiences was that of Professor Norman Colley from London. He was climbing back down from the summit in 1891 when he heard something behind him in the mist. It sounded as if something or someone was following him down the mountain, taking one step to every 3 or 4 of his. Professor Colley was unable to make out anything in particular as visibility was very poor, but he was sufficiently frightened to take flight, risking a fall rather than be caught by his pursuer. Other witnesses in the years that have followed have told stories that have strikingly common elements about them. Often, the first thing that the witness notices is the sound of footsteps. The footsteps are heavy and slower than those of a walker of average stature. This leads the witness to conclude that what he or she is hearing is probably a very large person. Sometimes this is all that the witness has experienced. Other witnesses, however, have also seen something, generally a very large upright figure in the distance. People who have seen the figure and have tried to follow it have seen no trace of footprint. Descriptions of the figure vary slightly, but it is usually described as being grey, very tall, human in form, but somehow not quite right. Unnatural. In 1943, which is almost 7:45, a man called Alexander Tunian was on Ben Macdouib. He was a naturalist with considerable experience in the mountains. As he climbed, he became aware of the sound of heavy, slow footsteps. After a while, a large figure rushed at him out of the mist. Tunian shot at the shape 3 times, but seemed neither to hurt. Try again. Tunian shot at the shape 3 times, but seemed neither to hurt it nor scare it off. He turned and fled, and eventually managed to shake off his sinister follower. The figure on Ben Macdouib, whoever or whatever it might be, certainly seems to be a malign presence, and its manifestations have succeeded in inspiring great fear even in the most hardened mountaineers. Pow, we have gone through the half-hour mark. Oh, I am all itchy tonight. Cheers, me beers. Slange. So, what's part 2 of tonight's beer? It's the Love Lane Brewery Blackbird Extra Stout, 6.7%. Oh my goodness me. We like this because we can get this from Home Bargains and it's as cheap as chips. How do you see the price of chips these days? When I was with friend Faye the other week, we had chips and mushy peas, small chips and mushy peas. Cheapest chips came to 10 quid. Couldn't believe it. Blackbird Extra Stout, brewed under the watchful eye of the liver birds. Roasted barley, flaked oats, and a selection of dark malts are combined to create a robust dark stout with notes of coffee, rich toffee, and chocolate, finished with a lingering tannic bitterness. A special release from Love Lane. Malts: Golden Promise, Crystal, Oats, Wheat, Chocolate, Black. Hops: Admiral. Nose: Chocolate, Rich Toffee. Palate: Creamy, Coffee Sweetness. Finish: Tannic Bitter. UK units: 2.9, IBU 50. Extra Stout Ale. Ingredients: water, malted barley, oats, wheat, hops, yeast. For allergens, including cereals containing gluten, see ingredients in bold, which would be the barley, oats, and wheat. Serve chilled. I'm feeling quite relaxed myself, actually. Store chilled. Serve 11 to 13 degrees Celsius. Drink fresh. Love Lane Brewery, 62 to 64 Bridgewater Street. No, not that Bridgewater. Baltic Triangle, Liverpool, L10AY. One of these days, I will actually go to Liverpool. I have travelled through it on a train to Scotland, but I've never actually been to Liverpool. No, actually, never actually got off the train and visited the city. So I think I need to do that. Anyway, wasabi snack time. So oh, these are so Moorish. So what have we been up to today? Mostly gardening. I had to have a quick trip over to Clevedon to get some motor oil because my car needs an oil change tomorrow. And I also went to Garden Park Garden Centre to get some horticultural grit. But beyond that, no, that was it. So I've got to be up the crack of dawn tomorrow to drop the car off to get the oil changed. And then no 2 Reg walk this week, which is a bit disappointing, but Reg is away, so fair enough. Although, fingers crossed, I am scheduled to have a day out on Thursday with friend Tara because it's her birthday. And quite frankly, if it hadn't been friend Tara, I wouldn't be here. So, looking forward to that. What were we doing today? We were doing a lot of garden stuff. So I planted out some more of my French beans, some more of my broccoli. I also pricked out, giggity, my tomatoes, I'm trying to think what the tomatoes were I pricked out. They weren't the plum tomatoes, they were the other ones. I've got plum tomatoes to do as well. So they all went into individual pots. So lots going on. Exciting times, everybody. And I also need to plant out some more potatoes in the next week and interplant with them my pumpkins. They need to go out now. And I also need to go to Laura's allotment because some of the leftover plants can go there, including the pumpkins. So exciting times. God, we love gardening. So let's have some of the, let's read a ghost story and then we can have some supper. So Discovery Dundee. Discovery Point, birth of Captain Robert Scott's ship Discovery, is now a tourist site of which the city of Dundee can be justifiably proud. The vessel was built in the city at the end of the 19th century, and it is a testament to the fine workmanship of its construction that it survived the rigours of its service as a royal research ship in the polar regions. On the British National Antarctic Expedition in 1901, Discovery saw 2 tragic deaths among those who sailed on her. Just as the ship was leaving New Zealand, a seaman called Charles Bonner fell to his death from the crow's nest of the vessel. The other death occurred some months later in Antarctica, when another seaman was killed on shore. It is the ghost of Charles Bonner, the first to die, that is thought by some to be the most likely cause of strange noises that haunt the vessel. The noises are heard above the officer's wardroom, just below the spot where the seaman fell to his death. Some visitors report a feeling of distinct uneasiness in the wardroom, as if there is a sinister presence there. Some people also believe that Discovery is haunted by the grudge-bearing spirit of Ernest Shackleton, who embarked upon the expedition with Scott, but was invalided out with illness and exhaustion. During the expedition, there had been serious personality clashes between Scott and Shackleton was extremely bitter at being sent home. What are we up to? 38 minutes. We're not even anywhere near the conclusion of this show. Oh, we are getting towards the conclusion of the wasabi mix, though, so cheers, my beers. Oh, that is lovely. Goodness me, that Love Lane may be my new favourite beer. Sound. Dunfale. The railway station at Dunfale is no longer in existence, but many years ago Dunfale was a stop on the old Highland Line. It was close to the station in 1921 that the first recorded sighting of a ghost train appeared. The man who saw the train was called John MacDonald. The sighting took place on New Year's Eve. The time of the sighting, given the habits and traditions of the Scots, might have made people wonder whether the witness's mind was befuddled by drink. But it is reported that this was not the case, and since that date, subsequent sightings have borne out John's story. It was an alarming sight. The last train of the night had long gone, so to see one at all was a shock. But the strangest and most disturbing thing about it all was that, although there were lights on in the carriages and steam billowed out of the tunnel of the train, But the strangest and most disturbing thing about it all was that although there were lights on in the carriages and steam billowed out of the funnel of the train, there appeared to be no passengers on board, nor was there any sign of a driver or engineer in the cab at the front. The site where the railway track once was can be perilous for the innocent walker. People are reported to have been knocked flat by some immense and invisible force as they strolled along. The ghost train travels on, heedless of those who might stand in its way. Bum, bum, bum. Cheers, me beers. Oh, we're going to top this one up. Top this one up. And for the second time tonight, Dead Soldier and Run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, Dead Soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
East Kilbride. East Kilbride, situated just to the southeast of Glasgow, was a pioneering new town when it first came into existence in the 1960s. But the ghost that is said to haunt the streets of East Kilbride comes from a much earlier time. Jenny Cameron came from the Highlands and was a fervent Jacobite. She was a well-known figure who earned a certain notoriety around the time of 1745, which is 5:45. Oh, the beer burps at 47 minutes and 45 seconds. Oh, that's better. Oh, let's get it out. The burp, that is. She was a well-known figure who earned a certain notoriety. She was a well-known figure who earned a certain notoriety around the time of the 1745 rebellion on account of the strength of her beliefs and her willingness to fight for them. Jenny Cameron was detested by the English, who circulated many an unpleasant story about her life and her wanton ways. These stories were probably completely unfounded, but they can neither be confirmed nor denied with any certainty. Jenny Cameron's courage, however, was never called into question. It made her a legend among the ranks of the Jacobites, many of whom she joined in battle. Jenny originally came from Glendessery, but when the Jacobite forces were finally crushed, she realized that she faced greater dangers. But Jenny originally came from Glendessery. But when the Jacobite forces were finally crushed, she realized that she faced great danger from reprisals by the Duke of Cumberland's men and left her home behind. She moved south and settled in the countryside of East Kilbride, where, having bought a large house that she named Mount Cameron, she took in orphans of the rebellion and gave them a home. Her life thereafter was very different. No more a warrior rebel, she became a respected member of the community. More than 2 centuries after her death, the area is now transformed. Housing estates have taken the place of countryside, and tarmac and concrete have replaced grass and rolling fields. Nonetheless, it seems that Jenny Cameron still feels quite at home and regularly makes her presence felt around the place where she once lived in East Kilbride. A hovering light has been seen by her grave on several occasions. Locals are well acquainted with her presence and feel quite comfortable with her. Well, that's nice. Oh my goodness me, how long is this next one? 2 and a bit pages. What are we up to? 45 minutes. We are 3/4 of the way through the show, folks. I'm going to have some more wasabi mix. Itchy nose. Strange. All that Love Lane forgot what it's called now. Love Lane, Blackbird. Oh, that's lovely stuff. It is my regret that my good friend Drew is not up here at the moment to experience that, because I think he'd like that. So, Snan. The Flannan Isles. Lighthouses nowadays are operated automatically, but there was a time not long ago when each of the lonely lighthouse rocks around the coast of Scotland had its light tended by a few stalwart lighthouse keepers. The job was vital to the safety of ships in the area, but it had considerable hazards. The job of a lighthouse keeper was a very lonely one, and not for the faint-hearted. They could be isolated for weeks at a time. Eileen Moor Lighthouse, off the coast of Lewis in the Outer Hebrides, was manned by 3 people, a head keeper and 2 others. As they were confined for lengthy periods of time without other human company, they had to get along with each other, or life could be very uncomfortable indeed. In 1900, the head lighthouse keeper was a man called Thomas Marshall. His 2 crew were called James de Cat and Donald MacArthur. In December 1900, their unexplained disappearance was to cause great consternation and speculation. It was on 15th of December that it first became obvious that something was wrong at the lighthouse. It was reported to the authorities that the light at Eileen Moor, which was supposed to burn continuously, had gone out. This posed a great danger to shipping in the area, and when the light had still not gone back on after a few days, a vessel was sent to the rock to investigate. A dinghy from the vessel was launched with a landing party, which tied up at the rock in an atmosphere of eerie silence. Why had no one come down to meet them? The explanation became all too clear when the party entered the lighthouse itself. The place was absolutely empty. The lighthouse crew had gone. The landing party looked around for some explanation, but could find none. There was no sign of there having been any disturbance. Everything was tidy and seemed to be in order, but the crew's outdoor gear. Everything was tidy and seemed to be in order, but the crew's outdoor gear, their oilskins and boots, were nowhere in evidence. Apart from the fact that the men had gone, the only strange thing that the landing party noticed was a piece of seaweed lying on the stairway, a kind that none of them had ever seen before. It was unthinkable that the men in a lighthouse crew should ever abandon their posts. Why and where had they gone? The log that was kept at the lighthouse gave strong indications that all had not been well before the men disappeared. On the 12th of December, Thomas Marshall had written, "Gale, north by northwest. Sea lashed to fury. Never seen such a storm. Waves very high, tearing at lighthouse. Everything shipshape. James de Cat, irritable." Another entry from the same day read, "Storm still raging, wind steady, storm-bound. Cannot go out. Ship passing, sounding foghorn. Could see lights of cabins. De Cat quiet. Donald MacArthur crying." Tension among the lighthouse crew was given further mention on the 13th of December. Storm continued through night. Wind shifted west by north. Decat, quiet. MacArthur, praying. Marshall made another entry that day. Noon, grey, daylight. Me, Decat, and MacArthur prayed. There were no entries in the log for the following day. On the 15th of December, the final entry in the book reads as follows. Storm ended. Sea calm. God is over all. Several things were disturbing about the entries in the log. First of all, there were the mentions of Decat and MacArthur behaving as if something was wrong. Were they unwell or frightened? Was it just the storm or something else? Then there was the fact that there had been no entry made for the 14th of December. Why was that? Finally, the storm that was supposed to have raged around the Lighthouse Rock for 3 days seems very unlikely, as on the island of Lewes, less than 20 miles away, there had been no sign of any such storm. Had the men in the lighthouse been imagining things? The official inquiry into the disappearance of the lighthouse crew was unable to shed any. The official inquiry into the disappearance of the lighthouse crew was unable to shed further light on the incident, nor were the 3 men ever found. But many people thought they had been subjected to something supernatural. People had believed for many years that the rocky islands around the lighthouse were haunted. Further evidence had been submitted to the inquiry that had only served to deepen the mystery. On the night of the 15th of December, seamen in a boat in the waters around the strangely dark lighthouse had seen another boat manned by men dressed in storm clothing cut across their bow. The occupants had not responded to the seamen's calls. The only thing that the seamen heard in response to their cries was the sound of the oars as they creaked in the rowlocks. Now it's true, I tell you. Was this the last sight of the men from the lighthouse, or were the figures in the rowing boat merely ghostly apparitions? The answer will probably never be known. Bum, 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 incroyable. Oh, these are all beautifully short, these next ones. So could be we can wrap up in the next 2 pages. So now I do believe that story was turned into a film starring Daniel, Harry Potter, what's his name? Lighthouse Ghost Story film. Daniel Radcliffe. The Lighthouse. The most famous lighthouse ghost horror film is Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse, 2017, starring Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson. The black and white psychological thriller follows 2 19th century light keepers who slowly lose their sanity while trapped in a remote outpost by a violent storm. That's not the film I'm thinking of. So The Lighthouse Keeper, that might be the one. No, that's not the one I'm thinking of. So it's Daniel Radcliffe, Lighthouse Ghost Story film. Daniel Radcliffe. No, I've got that all mixed up. It was The Woman in Black was the Daniel Radcliffe film, nothing to do with lighthouses. So clearly that's, I've got myself befuddled there. It happens. Loch Skene. Hogmanay by Loch Skene sees the return of the phantom coach and horses of Alexander Skene, who lived in those parts around the end of the 16th century and the beginning of the 17th. Alexander Skene was renowned as a practitioner of the black arts. He is said to have spent some years on the continent studying black magic. His gruesome activities while at home by Loch Skene were rumoured to include digging up the corpses of unbaptized babies from the nearby churchyard and feeding them to the crow that is said to have accompanied him wherever he went, perched on his shoulder. People were fearful of Alexander Skene and claimed that his imposing figure cast no shadow, even when the sun was at its brightest. The appearances started after his death. The story tells that he tried to cross the loch on his coach and horses, using his magical powers, and that as he neared the other side, he came across the devil. The coach then sank into the icy waters, and Skene was drowned. Bum, bum, bum. 59. Yeah, I think we'll end it. I can see where the natural ending point is tonight. So, Slangsbury, Margaret. Yet again, in the magnificent United Federation of Planet Shot Glass, courtesy of viewers Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Slange. Oh, there is going to be some more Western Gold honey, possibly tomorrow. Oh. Mull. Should have had some mulled wine tonight, but never mind. Actually, we did have the Copperberg, so winter punch. That kind of meets our Mull requirement. Anyway, Mull. The island of Mull, some 40 minutes by ferry from Oban on the west coast of Scotland, is popular with visiting tourists from all over the world. Oh, the beer burps again, do apologise. Some visitors to the island may find more than they expect during their stay, for they might come across the headless ghost of Ewan McLean. Ewan, spelt E-O-G-H-A-N. Ewan McLean astride his horse as he gallops through Glenmore. The story of the ghost is rather gruesome. On the eve of a battle with the MacLeans of Duat, Ewan came across a woman crouched by a stream, washing some blood-stained clothes. Ewan must have realised that this woman was a banshee, a supernatural creature whose appearance meant imminent death. The clothes that she washed were those belonging to men who were about to die. Having seen the banshee, Ewan probably knew that his chances of surviving the battle were not good. Nevertheless, he was committed to his cause and would not shrink from it. The battle was fierce, and in the midst of the fighting, Ewan was killed. He was beheaded by a blow so swift and sure, it is said, that when his head was severed from his body remained sitting upright in the saddle as his horse galloped away. Some say that the appearance of the ghostly headless rider in Glenmore foretells a death in the MacLean family. I think we're up to the last last dirt for tonight. So, itchy nose, bloody weather. Hate this hot weather. Slange. Cheers, me beers. Whoops, amazing. Pitlochry. On the road leading out of Pitlochry, on the road leading out of Pitlochry, heading towards. Let's try again. On the road leading out of Pitlochry, heading northwards, a grim spectral figure has been reportedly seen. People who know of the existence of the ghost are very anxious indeed to avoid it, for it is said that those who have come across it and have been touched by its cold white fingers will meet their death before long. That deserves a thunderclap. Last un for tonight. And then we're going to go downstairs, have some supper, watch some Family Guy, fall asleep, and wish it was colder. So, cheers, me beers. Ah, Slange. Sandwood Bay. Sandwood Bay is a particularly remote spot in the far northwest of Scotland, a few miles south of the lighthouse at Cape Wrath. It is a beautiful place, but few people go there as there are no roads leading to the bay. The only access is on foot or by sea. Several sightings of the same ghost have been reported since early in the 20th century. This ghost is not nocturnal. This ghost is not a nocturnal diaphanous creature at all. Rather, he looks so real that some of the people who have seen him have tried to engage him in conversation. The figure is said to be that of a bearded sailor, dressed in cap, boots, and dark-coloured clothing, with gleaming brass buttons on his jacket. Nobody knows who the sailor might have been, although there are theories that he might have drowned in the waters close to Sandwood Bay. He seems to patrol the bay with a proprietorial air, keeping watch on the few visitors, mostly fishermen and walkers, who come to the area. As he patrols the beach, however, the sailor leaves no trace of any footprints behind. As he patrols the beach, however, the sailor leaves no trace of any footprints behind him in the sand. That's it for tonight. We are going to go downstairs and have our supper and watch some Family Guy. So, Slange me up. Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely. So, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. We'll be back in 2 days' time for Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra on a Wednesday. Until then, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why? Why not? What else are you going to do on a Monday night, bank holiday Monday night, than watch a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head, drink ghost stories and read alcohol? Come on, folks, you can do better. I can't. I am trapped in this tragic existence, but you can do better. So, until next time, as ever, thank you for watching. Stay safe. Stay out of trouble. Please don't have nightmares. Good night.